with scoliosis, spending hours sitting in a chair can make your back feel really achy, and it can make your sciatica worse. But it doesn't have to. The right movements can actually bring you some relief even while you're sitting. In this video, I guide you through some simple exercises that you can do sitting in a chair to give you that sciatica relief and support your spine. So we're just going to work on some simple movements that you can do pretty much any time of the day when you're sitting in your chair, just making sure you can really plant your feet down, and then your hips are ever so slightly higher than your knees. So I actually added a yoga block here to my chair because it was just a little bit low. So you want to kind of sit on the edge of the chair for this, so we're not just kind of sinking back into the chair. And then first of all, let's see if we can just bring the hands onto the hips. We're going to start with a little pelvic tilt. So we are going to rock the top of the pelvis forwards and backwards. Forwards and backwards. So it's almost as if you're kind of going into a little bit of an arch and opening, and then you're going to a little bit of a slouching, tucking the tailbone under movement. So obviously you do what feels enough in your body, and if you have a spinal fusion in place, that is going to be a very small movement. But if you don't, just see if you can explore that forwards and backwards movement. And I want you to notice as well what happens to the rest of the spine. So I can feel when I tuck my tailbone under, I kind of sink a little bit more. If I go too much the other way, I feel a little bit of kind of compression into my lower back. So there is a somewhere in between place where I can actually lengthen up through the spine. Good. So this is the place that we want to find, somewhere in between where we can kind of be really nice and tall, lengthening up through the spine. And this is what we call elongation. We can also imagine that the ribs are moving away from the tops of the hips. So we're going to help this with reaching the arms up. Inhale to lengthen, exhale, drawing the hands down the midline. So we're creating space here. Inhale, lengthening, exhale, drawing the hands down the midline. Good. And one more. Inhale. And exhale, drawing the hands down the midline. So from there, we're going to start to work on improving our circulation a little bit more. And we're doing a little nerve glide as well. And the people who are in my membership, they know I love to work with the feet. There's so many benefits of strengthening your feet, moving your feet and your ankles as well. So we're going to simply stretch out one leg. And you can leave the heel on the ground for now. And we're just going to point the foot and then flex the foot. So see if you can keep it really nice and gentle. So we're just kind of reaching through the toes and then drawing the toes towards you. Good. That's it. So I'm actually now, when I point my toes, I'm lifting my heel slightly off the ground. That's giving me a little bit more of a stretch at the front of the ankle. And then I'm going to bring my heel down and draw the toes towards me. Good. Let's do a couple of more of these. Good. And then let's do the other side. So I'm reaching out the other foot and I just start very small, just seeing what that feels like. And then I can make the movement a little bit bigger by lifting the heel off the ground slightly when I point my toes, and then draw the toes towards me as the heel stays down. So there might be one side which you might need to work on a little bit more, depending on where you might be feeling that sciatica, but it's always worth working with both sides, really. Okay, let's slide this foot back in. We're going to take this into a little bit of a hamstring stretch. For this, I want you to just do a little pelvic tilt, so to make sure you haven't started to collapse, so you're still in this nicely elongated position. We're going to stretch out one leg, heel is down on the floor, draw the toes towards you, and then from there, lengthen, and then we're going to hinge forwards any amount. So what I'm not doing is I'm not rounding my spine to kind of reach for my toes. I'm really thinking about that elongation of the spine, and I'm coming forwards until I find a gentle stretch at the back of the leg. And gentle is the key word here. So I'd rather you kind of work with the first amount of resistance. You take a few breaths, relax into it, and then maybe you can come a little bit further forwards. So there's no point kind of going into a big stretch straight away, because all your muscles will do, they will just kind of tighten, seize up, and then that doesn't really do anything. So you want to approach this really nice and gentle. That's going to have a much bigger effect. Good, let's change sides. So I'm reaching out the opposite leg. I'm thinking about lengthening first, hinging forwards from the hips, just until I find that stretch. And this feels very different for me on this side. And if I find too much of a stretch, I just back off a tiny little bit, take a few breaths, and see if we can relax a little bit more into it. So remember, I'm using my hands actually here to create a little bit more length in the waist. Good, nice, and then slowly release from there. So we're going to come into our seated pigeon pose from here. I'm coming back to that first side, and I'm going to cross my leg over, the ankle over the thigh. And this might already be a stretch for you. You can encourage that knee maybe a little bit further down, lengthening up. Remember, this is key, especially with scoliosis. This might be enough, or maybe you're going to slightly hinge forwards. Remember, we're not rounding, we're lengthening and coming forwards any amount. Gentle is your key word here. Long breath in, long breath out, and then maybe after a few breaths, maybe you can come forwards a little bit more. But it's really not about how deep you can get into the stretch. It's can you soften, can you just go into that little bit of a tease and then relaxing into it. Good, let's change sides. I'm crossing the opposite leg over and just encouraging that knee down, the leg to open a little bit more. I'm lengthening up. Always remember to lengthen first and then coming forwards. This side is a little bit more difficult for me. And that just tells me maybe I need to do a little bit more of that on this side. Maybe I need to hold it a little bit longer. Just giving it a little bit more attention. So that might have been the first side for you, in which case you can always come back to it. And just listening to what it is that you need. Good, and then let's slowly release, unraveling the legs. From there, we're going to come into one more hip stretch. I'm going to take my legs wider. I'm going to come really to the edge of my chair. And I'm going to turn my feet out. And you can either just kind of rest your elbows onto your legs. That might be enough. Or you can hinge forwards a little bit more. Maybe bringing your fingertips down to the floor or palms of the hand down to the floor. So see what feels right for you here. Again, we're not rounding the spine. That's the priority. We're lengthening through the spine. Just taking a couple of breaths. Good. And then slowly bringing yourself up. You can give your legs a little bit of a shake. Let's finish with reaching the arms up. Exhaling, drawing the hands down the midline. Sciatica and scoliosis often go hand in hand, and sitting can often make the situation worse. I will walk you through what you need to know and the reasons why scoliosis can often trigger sciatica and what you can do about it. So make sure you click that video that is on your screen right now.